I try to drive, it'll automatically put it into park for me. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and on my goal to make 2 videos every single day, we're gonna be making a video on going over column shifters versus console shifters versus dial shifters. So in today's video, I'm gonna be going over each type of shifter that's in a truck, and sadly we're not going over manual transmission shifters because I don't have one of those available right now with the truck, but maybe I need to make another video on that. But anyways, I'm going to go over how each shifter functions, and then I'm gonna go over the benefits of each shifter, it's so hard to say that, and then the downsides of each shifter. Let's get into the video. So the first shifter here is probably the oldest type of shifter on a truck. Most old pickup trucks will have a column shifter like this. Even some of the manual transmission shifters were kind of like in a weird place up here. But yeah, this is a column shifter, and the reason it's called a column shifter is it's out of the steering column. And you know, functionality on it is pretty simple. So most modern vehicles, you got to put your foot on the brake, obviously. So I've got my foot on the brake down there, and then all you have to do is just pull it down to get into each gear, and it's kind of notchy into the gears. So you can see here on the little screen, I go from park to reverse to neutral to drive. And if you actually look at the functionality on the shifter when I'm doing it, you can see that I'm not just like pulling it down. I have to pull kind of back and notch it into each gear. So there's definitely some vagueness with that, but that is in essence the functionality on the column shifter. And now let's get over to the console shifter. So our second type of shifter here is a console shifter, and obviously the reason why it's a console shifter is it's in the center console area. So this is the center console of the truck, and then you got the shifter right here. So typically with console shifters, they vary in size on trucks, but usually they're pretty large, and obviously it's in this whole area. And typically they'll have, you know, some sort of actuation thing to go through the gears, and again, you still have to put your foot on the brake just like any other modern vehicle. This is the second type of shifter that was released. I believe that this was released a little bit after the column shifter. If I'm wrong on any of this, just let me know, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. This was the second one that was released, and in essence, all you have to do is just go through the gears like that. You do have to click the button in. So there's a button on the front of it, as you can see. Oh, if I can get you guys those angles. There's this button right here that I've got to press in. And when I press in that button, that lets me go to the next gear, and I can go through all of the gears. And typically they'll have the gears here, just down here to show you which gear you're in. But then they'll also have it on the screen right here, so you can see as I go through the different gears, it puts it on the screen as well. But that is the functionality here on the console shifter. Now the last type of shifter we have is the dial shifter, or it's also known as a rotary shifter, and that's just because it's a dial and twists. Now this one is kind of like the more recent offering. I believe that Ram was the first one to release a rotary shifter. Ford doesn't have it in their trucks, but they do have it in some of their cars, like the Expedition, a lot of the Lincoln products. Their new GT500 has this, but the rotary shifter just functions by twisting it. And again, obviously gotta have your foot on the brake, but all you have to do is just twist it, and it goes into each gear. And this one, this truck doesn't actually have anything on the screen, sadly, so you guys can see that I'm going through the gears and nothing's happening. So it's just right over here that it actually shows you what gear you're in. So you can see that I just put my foot on the brake, and then I have to twist the dial on this. And then obviously if I don't have my foot on the brake, right, take my foot off the brake, it locks. And you can hear that if, okay, just listen very quietly. You can hear the actuation of the shifter on the dial shifter, but that's kind of just how it goes through the different gears. And no, I've never mixed this for like one of these little radio dials or climate control dials. Okay, so we are back here in the diesel truck with a column shifter, so I can go over the positives and then the negatives of the column shifter. So first off, let's go over the positives. So a big positive with the column shifter is going to be, you know, saving on space. So since it's not in this area or in the console area, you can see here with the Ram, we've got this massive center console, and all this space just like in this whole area is all freed up. You've got a little four-wheel drive shifter, all that kind of stuff. So it definitely saves you on space in the truck. Another positive that some people might say is just the look of it. It kind of has that nice, just sturdy look to it with the truck. Kind of has that like masculine look, if that makes sense. And definitely people that buy trucks, they want to have that kind of like, you know, strong masculine look. And then the feel of it, So the notchy feel of it just feels pretty cool when you're going through the actual gears itself. It just has like this nice sturdy feel to it. But that leads me into the first negative point, which is getting into gears. So you can see that it's kind of difficult to get through the different gears. If you're kind of like in a hurry, you're stressed out, anything like that, you can quickly accidentally, you know, trying to go into reverse and you go into neutral, or you try to get in reverse and maybe it doesn't fully get into it. You can see now it's fully locked in. So that is definitely a big downside on the column shifters, is just getting it into the gears can be frustrating from time to time. And then another thing is just kind of like how old school it actually is. It's a little bit more old school with the mechanism and all that. And so if you want something that's a little bit more modern, then yeah, that's gonna be a thing. And I know that I said that people like the looks of it. I personally don't, because it's just kind of like this awkward thing that just sticks out of the steering wheel. And I feel like it kind of, you can see here from this view, I feel like it kind of messes up, you know, just like the cleanness. Like you take that out and it just looks so much cleaner without it. So I personally don't like how it looks, but I can understand why people would like how it looks. But those are the pros and cons, and to quickly go over them again. Pros, some people think it looks good. I personally don't. The other pro obviously is just how it feels, also the space saving, and then the cons again are, you know, getting it into gear, and then like I said, with the looks. The hardest thing about the column shifter is just, sometimes it's kind of weird getting it in and out of gear. So we've got the console shifter here now, and let's get into the pros and cons. So a pro on this one is going to be looks for sure. In my opinion, this is the best looking shifter. Obviously this one finished in carbon fiber since it's in a Raptor. Pretty cool looking. But even when you don't have cool finishes on it, I just think that it looks nice. Just kind of has this cool, kind of like sporty feel to it with the shifter. And that actually gets me into my next point, is the actuation on the shifter. You feel like you're doing something substantial here when you go into each gear. It just feels like nice and substantial, like you just accomplished something, even though you're just going into gear with your vehicle, which I know that's kind of funny, but just trust me on this. So I just like that fact that it feels substantial when you go into the gears. And then obviously it cleans up this whole area, because you just have the steering wheel, you can see just nice clean. There's nothing sticking out to the side like on the column shifter. So I like that fact. Now the first disadvantage to this is going to be, you know, the fact that it takes up space here. If I didn't have a shifter here, there could be more storage space here. You got cup holders on this side. The Ram, you saw, had that massive center console. This was all storage space in the Ram, whereas here in the Ford, you get cup holders on the side here, and then you have the shifter on the other side. So it definitely does rob some space. Other than that, though, I really don't have anything else bad to say about it, other than the fact that it robs space. And I guess this one isn't super direct sometimes in the gears, so sometimes when I'll go back, I'll accidentally like go into manual mode by accident, or sometimes when I'm trying to go into reverse, I'll end up in neutral. But I mean, that's part of just learning the truck in general. Oh, and I forgot to mention, in general, I know that I just said sometimes I'll miss a gear, but in general, it's pretty easy to tell which gear you're going into, and you know, like, you can see I put it in and it goes in. Unlike the column shifter, where the column shifter was vague if you're in the gear or not, this, it's super direct, so that is a huge plus. So again, to sum things up, it looks good, easy to get it into gear. However, it does rob up space in the interior, which is sad. Now we're going to be going over the final type of shifter, the pros and cons, and that again is the dial shifter. So let's get into the pros first and foremost. First pro is space savings. Again, just like the column shifter, since it's not in the center console area like the console shifter, you obviously can have more storage space here. And I feel like, again, this has a clean look with the steering wheel, because it's not just this giant thing sticking out the side. So this still looks good. But just in general, I mean, look how small this is. It's not robbing, it's taking up a little bit of space here, but it is pretty good in terms of saving on space. The other thing I really like about it is just the functionality on the shifter itself. So getting in and out of the gears is pretty easy, and it's super direct when it is in or out of gear. I mean, you can see it's pretty easy to feel when I'm in and out of gear, and it goes right in. Like, I can just spin it, and you can even go pretty quick. Like, either of those shifters, you can't just do that to go in and out of gear, and you guys are gonna be like, you're abusing it. It's okay, you can do this with your Ram. But yeah, so I feel like just going through the gears, it is super, super easy. But now let's get into, oh, and the last positive is the shifter will save you. So like if I put it in drive, and then I open the door and I try to drive, it'll automatically put it into park for me. So it does have a safety mechanism with that. The first negative is the look of it. It's just not very cool looking. The column shifter looks good. And the console shifter looks good. Like I said, I don't like how it takes up this space, but I still think it has like a decent, like substantial look. And then the console shifter obviously has a nice look there. Whereas this, it's like a little dainty dial, and you're supposed to be using this obviously to drive a truck. And it's like, wow, you're driving a truck with a little dainty dial in it. So on that side of things, it's not the best looking. And then I guess I can put in the negatives that you might mix this up with a radio thing. But I mean, look how the size of these dials, none of them are the same size as this. I mean, these are obviously circular, but they just aren't the same size at all. So I never mixed it up in my Ram. If you do, I'm sorry, but yeah, I don't really think that's a thing. And that's all in the dial shifter. So this is honestly a hard one for me to pick a winner, but at least I can take one of the trucks out of the running. So first and foremost, I'm gonna take the column shifter completely out of the running. I don't like the look of it. I hate that it's hard to get it into gear. Yes, I know that some of you might love the old school feel of that, but I'm gonna take that out of the running. So now we have the dial shifter, and then we've got the console shifter. So between those two, if I had to decide, I don't need to use a ton of console space, so that's why I would go for the console shifter. However, if I'm being completely objective in this video, taking out my viewpoints, I would have to say that the rotary shifter, the dial shifter, whatever you want to call it, that is the best one. Saves space, easy to get into gear. Yes, it may not look the best, but the functionality on it is better than that shifter and that shifter. So the win goes to the rotary shifter. But I want you guys to let me know what you think in the comment section below, which one you would pick out of all three. If you're stopping for the first time, please subscribe, comment down below what you think, and then I will see all of you in that next video.